Hey, crew. It's the 27th of March, 2025. This is Gimbalabs Dev Standup. We get together on Thursdays after Gimbalabs Open Spaces, usually starts around 1600 UTC, to talk about just what we're building, get help from each other, make plans. The way we structure this meeting is we have a running agenda here. This is just the Gimbal Labs headquarters in Notion. You can see we've been doing this for the month of March, starting to become an institution. I like how this running agenda reminds me of what Playground used to be, right? Just people adding stuff to the agenda, and then we would move through it week by week. So we always start here. We set our agenda for today or for the day, and then we move forward. So I'm just going to pick up right where we left off. We covered distance in Asteria last week. That one felt pretty good, right?
Yeah, that was good.
We got a recording of that. Utils, maybe there's some other utils we might want to look at, but we did touch that last week. We talked about Asteria project management, and that work has clearly been rolling since. And Adrian gave us an intro into SIP 143, but there's certainly more stuff we could talk about there. And I'm seeing three more items that have been added. So if you're the owner of one of these and want to make sure we talk about it today, or if you have new agenda items to add, what are folks thinking? Adrian, do we want to talk more about SIP 143 today?
Don't have to. Maybe we have something other on the agenda.
So this was like a good intro last week, and maybe it's something we pick up in the future. How about, so Emmanuel, does anybody want to represent this topic on Emmanuel's behalf, mesh deployment?
So this
Let's
might
leave
be,
that one. Yeah.
yeah,
And then Newman, do you want to touch more on the design patterns? We also had an intro to that one last week.
yep.
Oh, I can't do like just a cell. Hmm.
Right.
But maybe this one already has today's date on it. So Harsh, is this a priority, handling UTXOs?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we are stuck on it for a couple of
yeah.
weeks now.
That's the one that's most on my mind too. Yep.
That's a great one to start with. Let's certainly start there. Anything else that we should throw on this list while you're thinking about it? And this is a question for anybody.
I, yeah, yeah.
I'm
Just
curious.
dreaming up stuff. Yeah, go for it, Scott.
I was just going to say, I'm curious if some of this like ties into maybe the Go, all things Go also. Like, I know there's a lot of mesh and hysteria here, but um, yeah, like how to handle UTXOs in the front end development or deployment. Sorry. Um, I don't know. It's just
Great
asking.
question. Yep. We have an opportunity to connect to Go development from the Asteria work. And so just to give you like a high level picture of this, it's possible to build like a slow or a prototype of an application without ever touching Go. One of the reasons Google invented Go is for like optimization and scaling. Okay. Now it's likely if this Asteria app is a real hit and it's attracting thousands of users, then we're gonna notice the poor performance of just using like a Next.js TypeScript stack. And when that happens, especially right with on-chain data, that kind of thing, when that happens, all of those Go libraries provide us tools to efficiently offload business logic from the front end application to an API that'll move very quickly. And that's where it gets really exciting. And that's where Blink Labs is absolutely at the vanguard of that work, right? They have decades of experience as DevOps for, Web2 companies, all sorts of production grade applications. and they know what it takes to process data in a way where now it's more accessible to everybody. So that's really where that would come in. And I would say that when we close out the Asteria project, as a next step, if people wanted to jump into learning more about what Go does and building like an indexer, for example, specifically for Asteria, that would be really interesting.
Okay.
Thank you, James.
That,
Appreciate it.
yeah, that gives me some context about Go and really about Blink Labs. Yeah, for sure. My
And that's
thing,
beautiful stuff. We have not yet delivered any learning materials to help somebody build an indexer. Right. In Plutus PBL, Aiken PBL, you learn a bit about how like the on-chain stuff works, but you're not learning how to build like a scalable app. And you can't build a scalable app without having your own indexers. You're just not, you're going to, unless you want to pay thousands of bucks a month to Maestro or Blockfrost, for example, right? At a certain point, you've got to build your own infrastructure. And it's going to be really cool to build out those learning materials, build out some demos, just like we've done for other parts of the stack.
I do love the fact that I kind of now understand like Block Frost and Maestro, uh, like some of the vocabulary I'm realizing. I was like, oh yeah, I don't have to like access the database to figure out so it's just a little signpost of my learning. Been nice.
That's great. What if we call it for now? I mean, anybody who has access, feel free to jump in here, add rows to this table anytime throughout the week. You can see that not all of these numbers are 7 days apart, right? People are jumping in here. So bookmark this page, add items to this agenda. But maybe for today, we can talk handling UTXOs in deployment.
Yep, yep. This would be a good one.
Do it. Can I hand it off to the
Uh,
Asteria team?
yeah,
Yep. I can
I guess
share my
Harsha, you
screen.
share your screen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
I mean, I said that like it stinks, but no, it's good. It's good. I do like it when I'm sharing my screen because it just I don't know, it's just fun to do that partner pair coding type of thing.
Yeah, so
All right.
what we did was we were trying to deploy pellets, and the deploy pellets page is basically deploying like all the pellets at the same time, or at least in big batches of 8. And then we were hitting like a read to string roadblock. So we wanted to test it with one UTXO. So we created just like a test front end for sending one UTXO where things are hard coded. This is the front end for that. Let me minimize this. So I'll just connect the wallet. And this is like hard coded 55 fuel, position X, position Y, and the shipyard policy. This is the validator address, and this is the extracted script hash from um, I can't remember what this is. Oh, this is the extracted script hash from the shipyard policy where we have to mint the fuel tokens from. And when we deploy it, this is the error we are getting, and this is our log output. So we pretty much have like console.log for literally everything. Like 80% of the code is just console.log and print error and stuff like that. So this is what we have. Let me make this big so that it's clear on the screen.
Yeah, that's good.
Um,
Thank you.
so we have all this, and this is where we are getting the error. It's a type error, cannot read properties of undefined reading to string at Plutus data. Uh, and our error is, I don't know how to move this. Okay, so our error is, one second, I'll make this bigger as well.
And then close down your right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, that's great.
So dot complete, like the transaction binder, yeah, right here. This is where we are getting the error. Dot complete. And if you just want to see like a condensed version of the transaction itself, it's right here. So this is the condensed version of the transaction, and when it's hitting complete, that is where we are getting the error. So we put console.logs for each of these guys. They seem okay, but still we are getting that error, and I have no idea like how to go about debugging it. Um,
Can you copy the error and post it in the chat?
yes, 1 second.
And we also posted this in the Mesh Discord, so I'll post that as well in our Zoom chat because it might be something that we want to
Is there a
First of
repo?
all, before we look at this problem, guys, that's amazing. You built a simulated console in the browser, and think about what a teaching tool that is, right? Like
yeah.
instead of forcing people to go like open up their terminal, to give people a chance to get comfortable with it by designing an experience like that. Huge kudos. That's really, really cool. And you can have some fun. You can make this log, you can make this like look serious like a log, but put some Easter eggs in there and have give it a little bit of attitude. That's
Yeah,
really
sure.
Can
that's
these
cool.
can this error like uh can there be interactive like links that send you back to the code or something in there to where so you don't have to go look for it, say in VS Codium or something? Just curious.
I guess, yeah. I mean, like we can do that directly in the dev tools, I think.
Right. And you might have a more descriptive error here in the dev console. Let's see.
Oh,
Um,
that's a
But
good
first things first, right? Look, the first error is the most important. Transaction completion error cannot read properties of undefined, right? And
Mhm.
show us where that line is in your code base.
So we have like a try catch block here, and this
Right.
passed because this showed the redeemer structure, and exactly here is where we are hitting the error.
Exactly. And so we're getting an error just in the most basic sense because we're not yet building a valid transaction, right? And
Mhm.
so that could be for a few reasons. One, it might be that we're not satisfying the validation logic, therefore our transaction can't be built. Or it might be just some detail of the transaction, right? A missing UTXO, the amounts are wrong, whatever. So,
Mhm.
so what we're going to figure out is this some kind of just general transaction syntax error, or is it an error on the validator itself? So far, so good.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so just to because this is great like troubleshooting. So it's either the syntactical or the logical, I guess. So there are two avenues there. Okay. Yeah.
Right. And this is one of the hardest things to do directly from building on the mesh side, like TypeScript and mesh, right? And I'm speaking from experience here. I don't know by taking my first look at this, like I don't know if what we need to find is a TypeScript syntax error or if the thing we need to find is like an actual validation transaction error. And so you showed us, Harsha, the like the simple transaction. You have like that in a separate TypeScript doc.
Mhm.
Um, have you confirmed, have you run this transaction outside of the TypeScript project? Like for example, with Cardano CLI?
Um, no, not with Cardano CLI. No, not with Cardano CLI. No.
It the inefficient but most likely to succeed approach to your work right now would be to step back and build this transaction with Cardano CLI to make sure you can build it,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, it's
Mhm.
fine to try to avoid that, like, right, to try to go straight to the TypeScript code. And I find myself always having that instinct. Oh, I just want to build this thing. And lucky for me, like Adrian's built most of the transactions, so I can look at what he built and reference that, right? But on a team, it can be really helpful for somebody to build and show that those transactions are working elsewhere, because then we can really focus on knowing, okay, I have a valid transaction here, and I've got to get the TypeScript syntax right.
Mhm. Yeah,
For
makes
now,
sense.
for fun, we can do both at once inside of this code base and see what we can figure out. Yeah, sorry, Newman.
And well, yeah, so creating it in the CLI would be a way to, well, I guess, well, to check the logical side on the logic side. It's just like, will this work? Um, and then and factor out the syntax of TypeScript and mesh, right? So it's just a way of sort of breaking down the problem into a different part.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So if
Okay.
the CLI works, that means we can be sure that the values that we have are working. Uh, but if the
Yeah,
CLI
you know
doesn't
you
work,
have a
I think, yeah.
well-formed transaction.
So
Could you repeat that, James?
The goal is to know that you have a well-formed transaction and you're
Correct.
already using, right? This is mesh transitions to this way of doing things about a year ago, and I'm so glad you're using it because you can see on lines 38 through 45, these, all of these map one to tags in a Cardano CLI transaction build,
Correct.
right?
really? Okay. So then it's pretty simple, a simple endeavor. Do you think we could do that while you're still here, James?
We could
Um,
try to build that. Yeah, if you have all the variables and obviously to validate that a transaction builds, you need to have a node running. So
Uh,
we might not
I'll,
do all that in the next 12 minutes,
oh
but
yeah, yeah. No.
right
But we
as an
could,
approach, that's
no, but me and Newman can send it through the CLI and test it out and like
yeah.
report back next week. Yeah.
so let's using the couple minutes we have together. I want to look at just a few basic pieces of the mesh syntax. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's go back to it was the deploy pellets
Yeah.
component.
No,
Yeah.
the
Pellet
oh
Or
test.
pellet test, wherever the source code for this error that we're looking at.
yeah.
S-
Pellet test. Okay. Okay, so right here, where is the TX initially defined? I can see TX on line 222, tx.complete.
Let me quickly find that.
Um, there it is.
Okay,
Mesh
there it is.
mesh
There it is.
text builder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that? Where did you say?
Line 106.
106. Oh, constant. Yeah, you're right.
Um, and just you've got IntelliSense set up, right? If you mouse over Mesh TX Builder, can we just look at the details of that? Right. And so I can see right here that this takes a bunch of props. You're providing fetcher and verbose, but there's a few other ones, submitter and evaluator, and those ones are going to be really important. Um, I need to review some of my notes, but this is the first place that I would look, and I'm happy to see this. It's likely that you're going to want to include at least the submitter here, but I think if you're using dot complete at the end of the transaction, you
Mhm.
also have to provide an evaluator.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay.
Now, before we have more certainty that that's the problem, go down to where you are adding like, or go down to somewhere where you're unlocking. Oh no, this is a minting transaction, right? So we're not unlocking anything, uh, but we do have redeemers. Yeah, find a redeemer here.
Yeah.
Here's one, mint redeemer value,
Which line?
148.
Oh, right here. Oh no, this is, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
redeemable. Yeah.
okay. I have a script. It's a minting script. Here's the reference to it. And I have this mint redeemer value. Just mouse over that for a second.
This guy
Yep.
or this one?
The beginning of the line. Yeah, right there. All right. So look at what we have here. You're passing the value itself. And that's the first parameter we see, right? Redeemer, builder, data, right? This M constructor, 0 with fuel in the fields, right? That's mesh representing the redeemer. And I would need to just double check to make sure that that syntax is right. It's one
Yeah.
of,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
no matter how good you get at this, you're always going to make like little errors here and there with the syntax of like writing a redeemer in TypeScript. Okay. So that's always one of the places that I find myself checking. But I want to focus on what comes next, right? So after the redeemer, there's two optional parameters here. All right.
Oh,
We have
this one.
type. Well, yeah, that's the inside, right? But I see type and X units. And then, like you just pointed to, X units is actually an object that takes memory and steps. Okay. This is definitely one of the reasons this transaction is failing. I'm not sure if it's comprehensively the only reason, but I can definitely point to this. So basically, here's what's happening. The redeemer, I'm going to take like a high level view for now. Like in Mesh, the redeemer is the place where you also represent the cost of running a transaction. Okay. And if you look at like the CBOR for a transaction, um, the 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 execution units for any given transaction are specified alongside the redeemer. These two things go hand in hand. And that makes sense if you think about um, the several different like definitions we've given ourselves for redeemers, right? Is it a statement of intent? Is it an endpoint? Is it my action on this validator, right? Whatever it is, it is an action. It's an action of some kind, right? And because those actions might have different scopes, they're going to have different costs. And I'm painting for you an imperfect picture, but I'm just trying to give you like an overview, like this concept of redeemer and execution quantifying, right? X units. Those are always going to go hand in hand. Now, what's happening in this case is that when you use complete at the end of the transaction, you're actually with that command, you're asking Mesh to do a lot of extra work under the hood. One of the things you're asking it to do is when these X units are not provided along with the redeemer, complete is the thing that's going to figure out those X units for you. Oh, great. Thank you. So now and sorry, I got to run in just a second. That the idea here is up when you first introduced the TX, right? And you saw you've already got this fetcher, but you don't have a submitter and an evaluator. The purpose of the evaluator is to calculate X units for you.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay, so now tying these three things together, line 148, you're not specifying the X units yourself,
Correct. Yeah.
right? At the end of this transaction build, you're running dot complete. If you run dot complete on a transaction where you're not specifying the X units, you must provide mesh with an evaluator.
Oh.
So far, so good.
Mhm.
That's a big concept to get. If that's all making sense, that's a really big deal
It's
to
a big
understand.
win. I think that's a big win. Check this out. And I've got the in the in the docs talking about what the evaluator does. It says it would perform redeemer execution unit optimization, returning error message in case of invalid transaction. So I think that we need that evaluator. Or yeah, yeah.
That's a great place for you guys to start. I don't expect that to be like the only issue because you're learning these tools for the first time, right? Like it's a minefield. There's a lot of details to get right, but that should give you something juicy to play around with. And then like if you're ever looking for like a hobby exploration on the side, you can look at how to calculate X units on your own without that evaluator, that kind of thing. There's all sorts of fun stuff you could do. But for now, I would try to get that pattern working.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll do like a CLI transaction and also see how to figure out the X units for the redeemer. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what are you using Block Frost or Maestro up top? I forget.
I'm using
Frost.
Blockfrost for this. Yeah.
Yeah. Block Frost provides evaluation endpoints. Just read the mesh docs about how evaluation works. And that's it's all documented, but it's complicated to use for the first time.
Okay.
Excellent. Thanks, James.
Yeah, guys. Oh,
That's
this is
brilliant.
so exciting. This feels this is you're in the perfect place. You're in absolutely the perfect place right now to be hitting this error. And we've all been there. I'm nostalgic for like looking at this era with Jingles and Abdel Karim when they were first building Mesh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
you're in it
Oh man.
really good.
Well, yeah, that's awesome.
All right. Hey, I'm
Sweet.
sorry to have to jump off. And Newman, thank you for recording.
Oh yeah, you got it. I will send it when we're done.
Cool. Talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Right.
All right.
Then there were five.
Well, Martin and Adrian are probably just listening in the background. Oh, Martin's looking around. Um, well, I mean, it might be cool to just watch me and Harsha do our thing, or if you had more to add, or what do you
We are
think?
not as entertaining as we think, Newman.
Speak for yourself, man. Look at me. I was eating earlier on screen. That was great. What do you all think? Martin, Adrian, could you hang out with us in case we get somewhere we might need your help, or do you want to bring something up yourselves?
Uh, yeah, I was working on the GraphQL background service testing.
Could do a
So
little.
was doing that at the same time and listening a little bit at what you were
Sure,
doing. So
sure.
I
You
can't
want to give
really
us,
contribute
like,
that much, but
you could do us a little demo to get on the video. That
you
might be,
want?
yeah, yeah.
Sure.
If you think, I mean, it's just this is a tech stand up, and you've got something going on, so it might be kind of cool to just say this is what it looks like.
I can text stand up something.
Are you running? Are you running through the errors or the slogginess of the?
Yeah. So yeah,
That would be cool.
you can see my approach. I'm not there at the end yet, Scott. It's not so
Uh,
fast, but Yeah, I'm having like the start of something where I think the process I take is uh it's all in Docker containers right now, which is hard to do because it builds all that stuff and slow. Because I want to console what you do, console.log, build, see what happens. You know, I don't know the code base, so I have to take it step by step to understand what is going on. But if you're building all those Docker containers, it takes 5 minutes or something.
To spin up the Docker containers each time that you've got to, I see.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes no sense because then your testing cycle is very slow. I mean, uh, if your cycle is 5 seconds or if your cycle is a minute, I mean, that is your process is going that much slower. So you want to have that cycle as fast as possible. So that's what I'm working on now to make the cycle fast. So
Okay.
I can share my screen.
Yeah, yeah. Can you make sure that you've got access?
You would need 300 nodes to cover 5 seconds with 1 second per node.
All right. Let's see what we've got here.
So yeah, I have to run GraphQL. I can show you how what the current is that running. I will close it down now. So this
Let's
is
see.
my version of GraphQL, but the normal version, I have that running somewhere else. GraphQL. You can find this. This is maintained by Cardano Foundation, so you can find the GitHub online if you search for it.
Uh-huh.
You start it like this, and you can see a bunch of stuff is started, like Oatmeals, Postgres, Azura, and I'm working on this one. But you need to run all that stuff, token registry, all that stuff to run the background service. But this is now in a container. So yeah, it's running, but yeah, I can log it. So you can say Docker compose logs and background, and you follow it. And yeah, this is waiting on the metadata registry now, so you don't see that much happening. But yeah, if I would want to intervene in what is going on, I would need to
Okay.
edit a file. And several of these are all built, like these 5 units. And this is actually the background service. API Cardano DB Hazura. It interacts with Hazura, which is a middle layer between GraphQL and the Cardano and the data you are trying to put in the system. So I would have to edit something in the background client, I think. Something here. And then you have to build all that stuff. So I can show you now how I build it now.
Okay.
So I shut all this down. You see that running GraphQL requires quite a lot of services. And we're investigating a situation where we don't need to do all that stuff with Dingo. But yeah, this is we're looking into also maybe solving some performance issues at this moment. So I start these services, and here you can see I don't start everything because the background service I'm now going to run here, which I created a start script for. So I need to export a bunch of, environment variables, which I
Right.
extracted from the whole system to see, oh, I need to have all these environment variables set correctly to get this running. And then it will start, it's all JavaScript. So it will start this background service, which is built in this dist thing. So I can now run this. And well, that's what I did today. And now you can see, hey, it's now, following the chain. And you can see all these mints going on. Mint, every block has some blocks have a mint. And then this is what I first put in there, like console.logs, to see what's going on. All the blocks are coming by and mints are being made. So this is successfully following using the background service to store asset data into the database. So that's where I'm at now. And I can do like, if I do yarn build, I, took out all the other stuff, and I can now build only the GraphQL database, or not the graph, only the background service. And I do that. I can now, where I was working on is the chain follower. So you saw all that stuff coming by. As you can see, I can show you that this actually works. If I change mint into mint2 and I save it. Just to show as a demonstration. Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to build it first.
Because you're rebuilding it so that it takes the change.
Yeah, because it's JavaScript. It needs to be built first. And then I can start the background service. It will apply the what you call it? Yeah, it will apply the schema for GraphQL, and now you can see it says mint2.
Right.
So I'm right in there in the guts of the system, and I can do all the stuff I want pretty fast. So that's what I did today. And yeah, something's going wrong on mainnet, maybe or not. And but I can now, I have a system where I'm almost happy, where it's like, yeah, I'm applying every round trip. I am applying the schema, which I probably don't need to do. Maybe I can uncomment that stuff. Then I can make the round trip even faster. But yeah, I'm now able to see what is happening when all the assets are coming down from the chain. And a little bit later, there's an aggregation situation, which is very slow on mainnet. So it's aggregating all the assets. But on mainnet, for some reason, on GraphQL, that's a very, very slow operation. So I'm curious as to, that is maybe it's for a good reason, but yeah, I think this is interesting to follow further to see where is the issue.
Okay. Yeah, it's cool to see. I don't have as good a context as I might like. But it is cool to see how the process works. Thanks, man. Got Harsha, Adrian, any comment?
I mean, all I understand is that Martin got into the guts of the whole thing and is now able to like figure out what's happening.
What?
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was like from the Dandelion Light meeting that we had on Tuesday. Is that it's just super slow, like Martin was pointing out. And there were two processes that were making it slow. Other than that, like I'm not an expert in it, so I'm still learning as well.
It's kind of neat to see like those commands like in a more production environment, like those Docker compose commands in the that little shell script, which is super simple. A bunch of variables and a node, a JavaScript file. And and just so that's kind of where I'm keyed into, because I don't have necessarily a mental model of what this is showing, that like these blocks. I guess this is mainnet, right?
No, this is pre-production.
Okay.
I can tell you a little bit more. Like this, what you see here, it's you know what Ogmios is?
I've heard it and I should know it, but
It's like a web service where you can request block information.
right,
So
right.
this is actually a change sync operation where you like change sync is like I start with the block 0, and then every time I get the information of, because I need to ingest it in some database, I get block 0, put it in a database, and then it goes straight through to the next block. So block 1, block 2, block 3.
Right.
And I get all that data thrown out of Ogmios. So Ogmios actually can interact with the Cardano node and get you all that information for you, because you want to synchronize a database with the Cardano node so you can do some useful information with it. So this uses the JavaScript version of a implementation to ask the blockchain questions, and in this case it's doing a chain sync operation and syncing all the chain, and then the JavaScript is asking, is there a mint in this block? If so, put this policy ID into something. Is that more clear, Newman? Newman is
I think
Yeah,
he lost his connection.
I gotta call. I'll call. But
Ah.
yes, that does make it more clear. And it is, because the way these things kind of come into focus. So in that hopper, or that sort of memory file, that like file folder in my brain, like GraphQL and what you just described about Omios, like that it takes the blockchain pre-prod mainnet and then makes like kind of a middle spot where it's easier, faster, to where you can access it without having to fully access and, I guess, index the blockchain itself. I know that indexer is a thing. And then like this,
you're building kind of an indexer, because
Yeah.
GraphQL need to do queries where it will get all that data
Yeah.
from somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Okay. Learning a little bit about what all that actually looks like in the code, So is that's is this part of Dandelion Light?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Ogmios is part of it, and also that whole thing about synchronizing with the blockchain is indexing. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay. And then that's what they're running, like those nodes that like Scott is going to run. Those are they sort of middle? Do they I would access that node as opposed to accessing the full blockchain? Would I use different software, or would it be? And I'm sorry if this is that. I mean,
I can show you.
I know you're cool, so I feel comfortable asking these silly questions, but
there's pre-production. This is the end product,
right.
Cardano GraphQL. And I need to ask so this script where I'm working on this background stuff is actually preparing all that data so I can do this query tip. Oh, it's at
Right.
it's actually at the epoch 206, so it's at the tip. That's great. But I could also, yeah, I don't know all the queries out of my head, but for example, it doesn't work like this, but if I do asset, oh wait, asset, it actually helped me. So I
Oh,
have to ask the question, assets. I want to ask a question about assets. And I want to know a policy ID. So this is actually exactly what is happening here. It has the blocks, and this is a policy ID and an asset name.
we know that. We know that. Okay.
Yeah,
Now you're
you know
speaking my
what that
language.
is. But
Yeah.
to query this, I need to first have all of them.
Hmm. Of
And
course.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing here. I have to get all of that data into a situation where GraphQL understands and can build this transaction query.
Okay.
So yeah, it's taking all that stuff from the node, what's in the blockchain and the ledger, and putting it in a database where it's happy asking or providing you with an answer to a question, like what you do with Blockfrost.
Right. Right. Okay.
Actually, it's pretty similar to like Asteria game where they take all the on-chain data, put it in a database, and it keeps updating. And then from the front end, we just query the database.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Only usually if you are building such a specific system, you only store what is important for your application.
Correct.
And in this case, this GraphQL and the way Game Changer is built, Game Changer is kind of like a generic Plutus application backend like application where you don't know in advance what your application will request for information. So you need to prepare all information, which is a bigger job.
And so that's what it's doing now. It's just sort of, downloading all the old blockchain, like basically historic data. And then how often does it update, or could it be out of sync? I guess that's what nodes do is like, yeah.
You don't want to be out of sync because, if the wallet will ask a question, it will provide the wrong answer.
Right.
So you're watching the Game Changer wallet and you see, hey, I just received an NFT from somebody. It's not showing up yet.
Right.
So you want to be as fast as possible. Yeah, and if you have performance problems, it could be that your node is behind because it's still aggregating my assets, and we don't want that. We want that to be very fast.
So you remember Harsha, maybe you were around, maybe Adrian was around. We were doing something with Andamio, and it was it appeared like I like got I'd like gotten a reward twice, and it actually showed up in my wallet. I was like, oh wow, looks like you can just do multiple, but it was just it fixed itself, meaning it was just like, oh no, that was basically a double spend. And
It wasn't a double spend. It was just like a front end thing. Like the same transaction was showing up twice on the front ends.
Yeah, it was the same transaction hash twice. And I think, I'm not sure, I think it was a rollback.
right. And then it did correct itself. Yeah. Somehow.
Yeah, sometimes with rollbacks, that can happen. That it's like your front end is not handling that state correctly. So the blockchain is perfectly fine, but maybe your front end is not rolling back something which it should have, and then it's just showing you wrong data.
Yeah. Interesting. Love it.
Well,
cool, man. Thanks.
No problem.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, y'all? Um, we're
I think we pretty much exhausted everyone's projects at this point, unless Scott has something.
Good.
I don't have anything at all. Not right now.
I
All right.
I kind of want to show my simplified hysteria. What do you think, Harsha? Is it time to
Up to
show
you.
that?
That's your baby. Whenever you want to show it to people.
I didn't. I wanted to maybe bring it up. I can't remember if I talked to James about it. But yeah, we've got a few minutes left. Um, no. I'll leave it as a teaser. I'm working on something. No, I want to show it. I want to show it. If you've still got a little bit of brain power and just a little bit of feedback, oh man, I'm gonna have to get it spun up here. I'll try to do it while I talk. So the Asteria project, as we've gotten into it, has been really it's complicated. Um, I, I where does this story begin? Um, when Well, I was with a friend who had a little kid, and they were trying to teach the kid how to throw the baseball and catch the baseball, catch and throw, simple, basic procedure. And they kept standing like a few feet away from the kid and throwing the ball at the kid. And the kid couldn't catch the ball, and he was getting frustrated. You get the ball, and then he would throw it wildly, and you're just like, man, what in the world? So what I did was I took the ball and just gave it to him, and we just kind of like both holding on to the ball. And then I would let go and he would hold on. And then I would eventually just like be like an inch above his hand and I would drop it and he would catch it. And we just got so slowly back farther and farther away. Um, it's kind of a teaching philosophy. So I wanted to create, okay, so that's the end of that like baseball story. With Asteria, it just feels like um, it seems like too far of a reach. Like the ball is getting thrown, but I'm just like I'm losing it. I can't control my arms, and I just swat at it, and it's frustrating. So I was like, what is there a way that I can learn some of the things that are in Asteria, like the T3 app, and especially the Prisma database. And I asked ChatGPT, my friend, the mechanical programming partner, um, how can I make a simulated UTXO blockchain on a local database, basically? Um, and it came up with something actually, I think, pretty cool. Um, and let me share my screen and I'll show you in this last, see if I can get it done in a few minutes. I mean, does that sound interesting that you might want to see, or is that like, oh no, it's
Can
Mark?
you restate it one more time real quick?
Yeah, so it's, you know, I wanted to make a simplified uh Asteria game, and I wanted to, instead of using the full pre-prod, mesh um and Cardano database or backend, I wanted to create my own local database with SQLite, as it turns out, and sort of simulate and show the sort of UTXO concepts of inputs, transactions, and outputs. Um, and basically it kind of looks, I mean, it might gives you just to
So, so you'd be using like a static database, like the snapshot more or less, right?
yes, yeah. And this endpoint is UTXO and pilot name. UTXO. Okay. So you can create a ship And so Mark gets put 6 and 7. I can't find him on the. Oh, there he is. So, and basically, it was just a way to play around with some of the concepts, and then really to think about like maybe what our UI might look like. So they've got this point and move um, mechanic uh, in the. But what I'm most curious, because we were talking about databases and stuff, like I'm most curious about MPX. How do you start your Prisma? I thought there it is. No, that's not it. Which is the Prisma startup? Like I could show you the database, like the SQL database. Let's find it. Prisma. It says Prisma 280 times. MPX Prisma. Okay, that's better. 40 times. Build. You know what I'm talking about? Not generate version, EBC. But anyway, so my question is, do you think, I mean, have you ever heard of a simulated UTXO database studio? That's what it is. And would that be interesting? I think this shortcut is not working anymore to delete everything. Yeah. So I'm trying to dig into this and make this fit with my model for a blockchain. And I haven't quite got it just yet. Because it's basically, yeah.
I was just going to ask, like, how big is this? How big is the snapshot that you're using now?
Well,
Like, how many those
right now
in
this
there?
has 77 records, and uh those are transactions that have kind of an input to and an output from. And it's sort of relational database stuff, which is basically where I checked out on my computer science classes. I was like, I really want to learn this, and never could learn it.
Hey,
But
Newman, I
yeah,
have also this basically the ledger has a current, the ledger state, and
yeah,
you have all the blocks. And yeah, this is where my understanding of how the node works and how this data is stored and what you need to know about the current state is also a little bit like, how does that work exactly? Because I don't really completely
yeah,
understand. Like the node will create the state where I know all the current UTXOs are like at the top where all the outputs are filled on the previous transactions. You don't really need to know that because you only need to know open outputs, really. That's where the blockchain is at the moment. So how that information is stored, I don't know if the blockchain knows exactly all the outputs at this moment or if it needs to compile it from the whole thing every time you would ask. It's kind of like for me, yeah, I would like to talk to an expert sometime and he could inform me about Yeah,
What
this
exactly is
information I
the,
need to know.
what exactly is the current question? I'm
What,
just listening in.
yeah, we're just sort of thinking about like visualizing the blockchain and having and James always talks about the mental model of like what exactly is it that we're working with. And I was doing this trying to make a a blockchain or a UTXO model on a database in order to show transactions coming in and or inputs coming in, transaction and outputs going out. And we were thinking about like how does a developer really what their mental model is. And I remember this one, which has this great sort of physics to it. Have you seen this one before?
Mix showed it last time and all things go, I think.
Oh, did he? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, in short, a blockchain is just a list of hashes.
Right.
To
So,
Martin's question, the current, so the node only needs to know the current state of the blockchain, so the current unspent transaction outputs. Everything else, the node does not
Next
really
thing you're
care.
gonna tell me is my wallet.
Right. But it does store every block. Like,
It only stores the hashes of the block.
right.
And with Cardano DB sync, or yeah, Danelon also does that, stores the data how the hash is created.
Those store all data, right?
Exactly, yes. But they are not necessary for the node to have consensus.
Right.
hmm. Well, yeah, it's good to know that even experts are still, developing, mental model uh, of what's going on, and um, that I think there is room for learners to have that experience of really, you know, more than like the UTXO crash course, which is the other one. How do I get out of? And it will just finish here. But so this does something a little more than, these rudimentary diagrams, in some way able to play with it like in a game, so that you can really understand it at like speed. A game is all about like you have to understand it quickly. And I think that's really what I'm working towards. Um, yeah. All right. So that I feel pretty good that I was able to share that a little bit. I'll stop sharing. And we'll sign off from the recording. I definitely want to take too much of your time. You guys have any final thoughts? Anything you want to add?
Have a nice evening.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Um, yeah, thanks for joining. The tech stand-ups happened on Thursday after the open spaces. We'll be back next week. I think this closes out our weekly broadcast schedule at Gimbal Labs. And next Tuesday or next week on the schedule will be more stuff. Thank you so much. We'll chat later. Turn it off.
See you guys.
Bye,
Later.
guys.